beautifully dark tone poem simply called Legend by French composer Florent Schmitt. Conductor Joanne Falletta led the Buffalo Philharmonic with their concertmaster Nicky Chewy playing the solo violin. Florent Schmitt, born in 1870, lived a long and productive life, passed at age 87 in 1958. Conductor Joanne Falletta says, quote, Florent Schmitt is the most important French composer you've never heard of. His language is deeply personal, passionate, extraordinarily detailed, sophisticated, and elusive. The words of conductor Joanne Falletta on the composer whose music we just heard, French composer Florent Schmitt. Back in 2019, we gave our first ever PT Classical Woman of the Year award, and the inaugural winner was conductor Joanne Falletta. Our 2020 Classical Woman of the Year was composer Valerie Coleman. In 2021, it's conductor Marin Alsop. Always glad to hear from you about the people you appreciate in the world of classical music. Lots of ways to get in touch. You can write by clicking the contact button on the PT page at yourclassical.org. The Splendid Table podcast, hosted by Francis Lamb, highlights fresh voices and surprising conversations at the intersection of food, people, and culture. It's a food show where everyone is welcome. Listen to The Splendid Table wherever you listen to podcasts. I'm Fred Child. This is Performance Today from APM, American Public Media.
The BBC is a global leader in breaking news. With correspondents all over the world, BBC News is unparalleled in its ability to bring you live reports, in-depth interviews and analysis. The BBC goes beyond politics and world events with coverage of business, health, science, arts, sports and personal stories. That's BBC World Service, overnights on West Virginia Public Broadcasting.
This is West Virginia Public Broadcasting, WVPB Charleston, WVBY Beckley, WVBL Bluefield, WVPW Buckhannon, WVWV Huntington, WVEP Martinsburg, WVKM Matewan, WVPM Morgantown, WVPG Parkersburg, WVDS Petersburg, WVWS Webster Springs, WVNP Wheeling, and at wvpublic.org.
Good afternoon. It's 12 o'clock. You're listening to Classical Music here on West Virginia Public Broadcasting. I'm your host for this afternoon, Matt Jackfert. Maybe we have an exciting day for you. We have Ryan Kennedy coming on to perform live for you for our Call for Performers. That'll be coming up after this NPR News update here in about 5 minutes. Then at 12:30 we'll have Film Score Friday and we'll feature Jurassic Park, which was released on this day 28 years ago. And in the 1 o'clock hour we'll take a listen to this recording of Igor Stravinsky's Petrushka. That'll be coming up in about an hour. That and more coming up on Classical Music. First, we have this news update from NPR, then great music.
Live from NPR News, I'm Barbara Klein. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson opened the G7 summit in Cornwall, England today, declaring he and his counterparts must learn lessons from the coronavirus pandemic, prime among them inequality.
I think what's gone wrong with this pandemic, or what risks being a lasting scar, is that I think that inequalities may be entrenched. And we need to make sure that as we recover, we level up across our societies and we build back better.
In Washington, a bipartisan group of senators has agreed on a framework for an infrastructure package. But NPR's Amy Held reports there's a long road ahead before it's a done deal.
The tentative arrangement focuses on core physical infrastructure. It would cost $1.2 trillion over 8 years, including more than $500 billion in new spending. The senators say it will be fully paid for with no tax hikes, but beyond the 5 Democratic and 5 Republican senators, it's unclear just how much buy-in there is for the plan. Senator Susan Collins, Republican of Maine, is among the negotiators.
Obviously, there's a long ways to go.
Just how far there is to go is laid out by the White House reaction to the news. Questions need to be addressed, it says in a statement, particularly around the details of both policy and payment. Amy Held, NPR News.
California Governor Gavin Newsom says the federal government has agreed to restore nearly $1 billion in grants for the state's high-speed bullet train project. The funding had been pulled by the Trump administration 2 years ago. The rail line is under construction in California's Central Valley to ultimately connect Los Angeles and San Francisco, but it's been plagued by cost overruns and delays. Forecasters say many parts of the West are at a high risk of wildfires in coming days. NPR's Nathan Rott reports a massive drought has left wide areas bone dry.
Scientists say that much of the western U.S. is in a mega drought right now, a long, possibly decades-long period of severe drought over a wide area. Virtually all of the southwestern U.S. is looking at critical water supplies as it enters its hottest months of the year. Lake Mead, the nation's largest reservoir just east of Las Vegas, hit a record low level yesterday, and the shortages are expected to be felt by farmers, ranchers, and states all along the Colorado River Basin. The low water levels and dry conditions are also putting stress on forest managers and fire agencies around the West, with high fire potential forecast for Colorado, California, and much of the Southwest. Nathan Rott, NPR News.
This is NPR. The U.S. Embassy in Moscow says it's lost contact with an American citizen held in Russian custody, just days before President Biden meets in person with Russian President Vladimir Putin. NPR's Lucian Kim reports Trevor Reed is one of 2 high-profile cases of Americans serving long terms in Russia.
The U.S. Embassy in Moscow says it's gravely concerned about Trevor Reed's health after he was diagnosed with COVID-19 in May. The embassy says it's been denied consular access to Reed for more than 2 weeks, and that he's not been allowed to make phone calls or receive mail from his family. Last summer, Reed was sentenced to 9 years for allegedly assaulting 2 policemen during a night out in Moscow. Another American, Paul Whelan, is serving a 16-year sentence on espionage charges. Both men maintain their innocence amid speculation they're being held as bargaining chips to secure the release of Russian nationals in American prisons. Lucian Kim, NPR News, Moscow.
Switzerland has announced special protective measures for next week's summit between Biden and Putin. Airspace over Geneva will be temporarily restricted. Surveillance will be conducted from space, and up to 1,000 additional troops will be deployed on the ground. China's space agency today released photos from its rover that landed on Mars last month. They show a rocky and dusty terracotta-colored landscape and the rover itself decorated with Chinese flags. I'm Barbara Klein, NPR News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Progressive Insurance, offering Snapshot, a program that adjusts insurance rates based on safe driving habits. Now that's Progressive. Learn more at progressive.com or 1-800-PROGRESSIVE.
Hi, I'm Mason Adams, one of the new co-hosts for Inside Appalachia, a show where we meet folks mining new ideas for the future, like how to make rocket ships from coal.
I'm adding so much value to the coal, but I'm also adding a lot of jobs.
Listen to Inside Appalachia every Sunday morning at 7 and again Sunday evening at 6 here on West Virginia Public Broadcasting.
Next time on Red Barn Radio, Zoe Howard in Yellow Line. Zoe Howard is an Appalachian artist who is from Salyersville, actually, a small town in East Kentucky. She's had an interest in music from an early age and began writing original songs when she was only in middle school. She's continued to develop as a writer and singer and crafts songs about the life she lives where she lives it. Red Barn Radio, roots music, Southern style.
Sunday night at 8 on WVPB.
The BBC is a global leader in breaking news. BBC News is unrivaled in its ability to bring you live coverage, in-depth interviews and comprehensive analysis. Plus, the BBC goes beyond the headlines with coverage of business, health, science, arts, sports and personal stories. That's BBC World Service, overnights here on West Virginia Public Broadcasting.
Good afternoon. It's 12:07. You're listening to classical music here on West Virginia Public Broadcasting. I'm your host for this afternoon, Matt Jackfert, and I'm here with a special guest as part of our call for performers. I have Ryan Kennedy, guitarist, teacher, composer, and arranger. Ryan performs on Mountain Stage with the Bob Thompson unit and the Ryan Kennedy Trio. Ryan, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Matt.
Great to have you back on. It's actually about 1 year exactly since the last time we had you on the show, and you played beautifully for us. So it's great to have you back on. Ryan, how's your year been?
Well, a lot of adjustment.
Yeah, right. I know. I mean, everything's different.
Like with everybody.
Right.
We were very fortunate that a lot of private students stuck with us through the quarantine and everything. We were able to teach lessons online enough to keep us afloat through all of this.
Right. Yeah, it's been very different for musicians.
Absolutely. Everything was gone.
Yeah.
Wiped out the entire calendar.
Mm-hmm. And you've been able to teach virtually over Zoom and things like that?
Zoom, FaceTime.
Yeah, right. Is that much different or much different, difficult, like more difficult than you normally would?
Yeah, the biggest problem with it is you can't play with the person.
Right.
You don't really. It's a little bit more difficult to demonstrate, rhythmically what to do if you're not sitting there with them, right across from them, and show them like where to place their hands. And things like that.
Right.
Just certain things you can't communicate remotely the same way.
Right.
So.
Right. But you're still able to hear their sound and correct them and teach them technique that way. And you've been able to get back into it, though. You've been able to play a little bit live now that we've lifted some restrictions. Tell us about that.
Well, we've done Bob Thompson is doing Olive Tree about once a month over in South Charleston. And, my wife Amanda and I have played some outdoor private parties and things like that. And
great.
We'll actually be at Fairways in Tays Valley tomorrow night. And I'm on my way to rehearse with Bob Thompson as soon as I leave here, because we're doing Jazz Alley in Ashland, Kentucky.
Okay, yeah.
Next Saturday.
All right, sounds like the gig life is coming back, and you're going from one gig to practice for another, and then the gig. Seems like we're getting closer to normalcy. That's good to hear.
Yeah.
And so we have a great playlist today, and you're going to be performing for us live some stuff on the acoustic classical guitar you have here.
Yes, indeed. This is going to be a series of pieces by Francisco Tárrega.
Yeah. What do you have for us?
Two mazurkas, Adelita and Marietta, and Capriccio Arabe.
Okay, and these are all by Francisco Tárrega and performed here live by Ryan Kennedy. Take it away. Wonderful job there. That was a series of pieces by Francisco Tárrega, and that was Adelita, Marietta, and then Capriccio Árabe, right? Does that sound right? I'm getting my Spanish pronunciations right, hopefully, here. And all music by Tárrega, and he is an incredible composer, and it seems like you have a fondness for his music. You played him last time, you're playing him today. Tell us a little bit about Tárrega and why you like his music.
Well, he is called the father of classical guitar. That's a title many people have been given.
Bestowed on him, yeah.
Yeah, but he very Chopin-inspired in many ways. Like he, I think some of his early arrangements were Chopin pieces for the guitar.
Yeah.
And,
it's interesting because you said the first two were mazurkas, which are a Polish piece. And, you know, Tárrega is a Spanish composer and guitarist, you know, so it's interesting. He took something from Poland and then made kind of Spanish-y, you know, music out of it and put it onto the guitar. So it's interesting to see him take, you know, Chopin music and his piano pieces and put them on guitar and make them really something special. Yeah. So, you know, how did you find these pieces? And you just been a fan?
I've been playing those for a very long time. These are among some of the first pieces that my teacher, Chuck Beal, gave me when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
It's only been within the last several years that I've started to really, you know, take my classical playing seriously and dust these off a bit. So
well, it sounds great, and they work really well for guitar. I mean, you can tell, and you know, there's some interesting little pieces in there. You hear some chromatic runs, you know, coming through there, and those, you know, and that seemed to work really well with you going up the bridge there. And then the alternations between major and minor in those pieces are really interesting as well. So cool works. Glad you brought those out. And the next piece you have is a piece by Debussy, also originally for piano.
Yes, this is The Girl with the Flaxen Hair.
Yeah, and this is a piece that Debussy wrote in a suite of piano pieces. And this one, is very interesting. It sort of shows a fondness for this girl with the flaxen hair, and it begins with that opening minor seventh chord, and
good ear.
Yeah, and it sort of meanders around. You're sort of daydreaming about that girl with the flaxen hair. That's how I see it. So I'm really interested to hear how this works on guitar. So when you're ready, go ahead and take it away. Really cool stuff. That works really well for guitar. Originally a piano piece. That was The Girl with the Flaxen Hair by Claude Debussy. And that was that an arrangement you did, or was that?
Oh no,
you just found that? Yeah.
That was a Jack Marshall arrangement.
It's cool.
It's the one that Christopher Parkening, I think, recorded.
Great, yeah, master guitarist there. And I heard the harmonics in the one part. That was a really cool feature, just to give it a little different color. That was nice. And is it in the original key of G flat, or is it in a different key better for guitar?
It's in the key of G for the guitar.
Okay, yeah, that might work a little better for guitar tuning. On the piano, it's in G flat, which is tough. And that piece sounds easy, but it certainly is not. It is a tough one.
Yeah, it's anytime you're adapting piano where you've got so many possibilities of just technique-wise, you can use all 10 of your fingers as opposed to being limited to only 6 strings.
Right.
You've got to do some interpretation as to what, how to translate one to the other.
Right, exactly. So, yeah, you have 10 fingers on the keyboard, but you only have 6 strings, so you gotta choose the right notes and make sure your the fingerings are in the right positions and everything. And yeah, great performance there. That was lovely, and I enjoyed the sort of tempo changes you put into them. That was really cool stuff. Again, music by Claude Debussy, performed here live in our studios by Ryan Kennedy. And you have one more piece for us today. Go ahead and tell us what that is.
This is from Hector Villalobos' series of 5 preludes. This is the first of that series. Prelude 1.
All right, here we go. Prelude 1. By Villalobos, performed here by Ryan Kennedy on guitar. job there. And that was the Prelude number 1 by Villalobos, performed here live in our studios by Ryan Kennedy on the classical guitar there. And that's not an easy piece. That seems really tough.
It lays nicely on the guitar.
Yeah.
Anytime you have a composer like Villalobos, who was himself a guitarist, he knows the intricacies of the instrument very well. It's difficult to write for the guitar if you don't play it.
Right, I can imagine. And you probably have some weird, get some weird hand positions from composers who don't normally write for guitars. So
get 10-note chords and things.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
You can't really play that. So we have someone you have like Villalobos probably plays, writes really well for it. It's like Paganini writing for the violin, who was also a violinist, wrote some great works for the violin, and so that's why we have some great works. So that was originally written for the guitar and then played there on the guitar. Well, thank you so much, Ryan, for coming on our show and performing these great tracks with us. We had Ryan Kennedy, who's a guitarist, teacher, composer, and arranger, performs on Mountain Stage with the Bob Thompson Unit and the Ryan Kennedy Trio. It's great to see you getting back to normalcy, getting some gigs out there. We'd love to see you in public again and performing live for us. So thank you so much for coming on today's show.
Matt, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. And today is Film Score Friday, so we will have a little bit of music from Jurassic Park, which was released today, 28 years ago. So more music in just a moment.
The Southern Baptist Convention meets next week in Tennessee, and a growing number of pastors are threatening to leave the group because of allegations of racism.
You have a majority of white men telling black preachers what we can and cannot say. That's hugely problematic and a throwback to slavery times.
Southern